Free agency has become that. Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers. Kevin Durant and Kyrie to the Nets. Oh, yeah, that's true. The only problem is Kyrie and KD can bounce after a couple of years because it is now 3+1.
That's right.
And Durant's not playing, so it's really 2 years guaranteed.
Right.
And Kawhi, it's 2+1. Play 2 years for the Clippers, 30-year player option, very well could leave.
Yeah.
So it's a little misleading, the whole free agent process.
Yeah, and Kawhi signed a 2+1. The official deal came out 3 years, $130 million, I think it was, to match what Paul George's contract essentially is, and what's left on his deal. And I mean, it sounds like it's weird because it sounds so interesting that they're going to be in Los Angeles. But what happens is if Paul George, who's likely going to miss some time. I don't know how much time he's going to miss, but he's going to miss some time at the beginning of the season. Let's say he comes back, he's rusty, things get off to a bad start. Kawhi, who is taking maintenance days these days. Let's not forget, he played 66 games last year.
It's not a lot.
No, exactly. Took 20-something off, about 20 off last year, and he has a history of injuries. What happens if this just doesn't work out and it's just ugly? And after all this pomp and circumstance, everything that we've made in this free agency, and a year from now, or 2 years from now, we start hearing, well, Kawhi's not happy in L.A. Doc and him aren't getting along. This game doesn't work. I don't think this is going to be the case, but let's say this happens. All of a sudden, we're doing the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
Right? That's the NBA, and while some people love it, I just think it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like there's a story that makes any sense with the NBA because of the player movement. And I'm not trying to be overly sympathetic to teams or fans, but I almost feel like they have too much control. They really do. And especially when you get the superstars like LeBron and now like with Kawhi, who basically do whatever they want. I want Anthony Davis. Okay, we're going to screw up our season, find a way to get Anthony Davis, right? I want Paul George. I'm going to tamper behind the scenes with Oklahoma City Thunder and convince Paul George to demand a trade out of Oklahoma, right? It just doesn't feel good, right? It's interesting, and it's interesting to talk about, and it makes our job actually more compelling and bombastic and visceral.
Yep.
But it just doesn't feel good. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Matter of fact, for, I don't know, I was going to say years, but maybe years is stretching it. But for a good stretch now on this show, on Tiki and Tierney, I have long stated that this model is not necessarily sustainable. While the NBA's morphed into a 10-month-a-year gig, and it is fun, and the phones ring off the hook, and the speculation's intoxicating, and the topic and the material, the content is just overwhelmingly awesome, right? Think about this. When I first got into radio, there were days literally where you'd come in and you'd say, what am I going to talk about today? Like, not many. Usually now in July or... What am I going to do? I got to make something up. I got to start a little contract. I mean, you've got to really dig deep, and that's fine. And there's an art to it, and the good ones do it, and the bad ones don't. But you don't really have to do that too often anymore because it always gives you something, which is good for us, and I think good for the consumers. But what's bad for the consumers, and eventually could be bad for us, is that, and this is what bothers me, tampering, I don't even care. You can't solve that.
Guys are going to do whatever they want to do.
Is what it is, never going to change.
They're going to talk to each other. Social media makes it easier.
Not changing.
Even if you don't know a guy, you can get in touch with him.
Not changing. But what needs to change is, and he talked about this as well, the disenchanted stars demanding trades, and then the teams acquiescing out of necessity. And that limits, suddenly you've got, what is it, 32 teams? I was 32 teams in the NBA, right? 30, is it 30 or 32?
30.
How do I not know? I still don't know this.
NFL
All I know about sports, I never get that right. Any league.
Yeah, the NFL's
the NFL I get right because that's a little bit different.
And it makes sense.
It's even.
What used to not be.
No, I know.
It used to be 30, and then they made it 32, and it made sense all of a sudden. Like the divisions lined up perfectly. It's like, wait, why hasn't it always been this way?
I don't know. But there's 30 NBA teams. If this model doesn't change, you will automatically lop off 20 fan bases. The Detroits, the Memphis, the Atlantas, outside of the big, vibrant markets that people theoretically want to go to.
Meaning the stars.
The stars.
Yep.
It's not sustainable.
Agreed.
It's not. And that's a big problem. More so than the stupid tampering, which is no way to ever stop that.
Yeah, look, Oklahoma City's the perfect example. And we've talked about them for the last couple of days, BT. But, there's a report now that Russell Westbrook wanted to get out and get traded before Paul George was traded, and Russell Westbrook was the one guy. And we had all these superstars and MVPs and average triple-double maybe for his career if he keeps it up. Maybe without Steven Adams, it won't be the same because Steven Adams lets him get all those rebounds. But you know what I mean.
This guy, that's his boy.
He wanted to be there, right? It's like he's the one superstar that is embracing a smaller market.
And we respected that.
Absolutely.
Big time.
And now he's like, all right, I want out.
Yeah.
Let me out of here.
Wants a championship.
He wants a championship. And you can't build a championship in a small market because you're not going to get the stars that are going to come and be there unless they get traded there. And then just like we saw with Toronto, even if you win a championship, it's not incentive enough for you to stay there.
It's a huge problem.
You have a contract and you have to adhere to it. That's what you hear in the NFL, by the way, right? You have a contract. I want out. I want to go someplace else. I want more money. You sign a contract. It is what it is. The NBA, that doesn't exist. I wonder if you can put that genie back in the bottle in the NBA.
Meaning you make it more punitive to leave?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they've tried that. They keep extending it.
Yes. And
that's going to be bargained, though, collectively bargained. It's got to be.
Well, that's my point. It's out of the bottle now.
Yeah.
You can't now go say to XYZ superstar, Anthony Davis, you want out? You want to demand to trade out? Well, that remaining portion of your contract is no longer guaranteed. Like if you said that,
oh, I love it.
Guys would not be clamoring to go win a championship.
He'd have a penthouse in New Orleans right now is what he'd have.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, he wouldn't be moving.
And there's no way they're getting that back into the proverbial bottle so that it protects small market teams. But that's the only thing that's going to change it, right? It's the only thing because contracts are guaranteed. These guys sign it. It's $140 million or whatever they're getting it. Period. If you now say if you're going to force your organization that committed 140 or whatever that number is to you to now change. Think of it. It's not just like it's like sweet sales. It's marketing. It's like all of these different dominoes that are just obliterated when a guy demands a trade. If you're going to demand that trade, then the remaining portion of your contract's not guaranteed.
I like it. Not plausible.
Not
we both know it.
It's not happening.
I mean, maybe
that's the only thing that would fix it.
Because that's what players react to. Their pocket.
You hit it where it matters.
But then again, some players are leaving money on the table now.
This is true.
So that's another trend that maybe it's counterintuitive to what you think or what we think about money.
That's a good point.
They think they process it. They want to be happy. They want to be with their boys. And conceptually, I would want to do the same thing. But for the good of the sport, we've got to find a way to stop this.
Yeah,
just don't know what the answer is today.
I don't know if there is one.